And rolling. Hello, everybody. This is kind of going to be an adult post. So if you're kind of looking for drama and comedy and stuff, it's not going to be in this one. This one's going to be a little bit of a different tack. I've been sort of toying with the concept of trying to provide, but just, I don't know, give a little bit of a insight to newcomers into what this community is like and where it got started and so on. I think, there's been quite a few people lately saying, imagine if you had to try and explain this bloody place, this whole community, to someone on the outside. And there's a few people which have come across lately and have been asking, why is this guy fighting with that guy, and why does this guy, and what's this catcher and that catcher, and so on, and how does it all come together? I think it was Ryan the other day was saying, imagine trying to just explain this to somebody. It'd be quite an insane. So this is me trying to sort out my current impressions of how this place sort of operates and how it came to be the way it is, and maybe what some of the driving features are that makes it, particularly the conflict side of things. Why are people beefing with each other? So this is my attempt at unraveling the community as such. So what I was thinking is, I've just started putting down some ideas on how things came together, a little bit of a brain dump. And what I was thinking was, I'm just going to do this for myself over the course of however long it takes, and just try and capture and update sort of valuable points of view. So I'm going to put down what I think, the way I see things happening, or the way I see things, I guess, have come about. And I'd be interested to know if, any other people that are interested in sort of trying to understand a little bit more. Not just sort of being critical so much as just trying to understand how this community came to be about, and what the movement's all about. So it's going to be, mainly an adult space. If you're into dragging, it's going to be, which we all are from time to time. It's it's not going to be happening here so much. So you probably get bored. But anyone else that sort of wants to enjoys a good discussion and just sort of thinking through things from any of the sides, I need to elaborate. Anyone that's just interested in trying to understand more so than just throwing shit at someone, just hang around. So the process, I was thinking about this, and I said, well, where do you start with all of trying to understand? This is coming from the drama community so much, but to understand the drama community, you've really got to understand the catching. Why is the catching movement? That's where it started. This is just really a spin-off from that. Again, it's like, I guess that's someone, like for new people that come in, maybe at some point in time, it'd be nice if I can consolidate these ideas into a couple of simple slides, and it'll just give a little bit of background to the sort of dynamics of how the sort of space operates within itself. So I had a bit of a brain dump, which was, okay, where do you start? I've got just to read a few of them out here. There's obviously plenty more, but these are the ones that initially came to my mind. You've got preds, and you've got catches, and you've got decoys, and there's children, and then of course there's guidelines if there are any. And if you're explaining to someone, it would be really hard because you've got all these inside jokes that happen. Obviously, why are we here? What's the fundamental? People keep bringing up. It's like, let's get back to the focus. So why are we here? Which spills up. You've got concerned parents and you've got concerned people, because you don't have to be a parent, obviously, to be concerned about child welfare. You got supporters and you got scammers and what else? You got drama community and there's victims and survivors, and it's fun sometimes, and it's for the kids and it's fun again. And you got fence sitters and DAs and the movement, doxing panels, police. There's all this sort of stuff that comes into your head when you start thinking about this place. So it just becomes a little bit of a nebulous conversation. Well, in my head anyway. And it's pretty easy to pick one of these topics and look at it in isolation and have a bit of a one-on-one discussion about it and sort of get some agreement. But when you try to bring in all the complexities, it gets a little bit overwhelming. So I just picked a few of these in my head and thought, okay, what's the starting thing really needs to come back to, what's it about? And obviously you've got predators and you've got children, and then you've got DA and police. So you've got law enforcement. There's obviously something going on there. And obviously the motivation behind that, who's driving it, concerned parents and concerned people. But what are they concerned about exactly? What's there's an outcome that's obviously, not sure what the word is that I'm looking for. There's a movement which has started because something isn't working in society. So steps try to go through and, again, I was a little bit, a lot of this stuff is, pretty obvious to a lot of people, but, for newcomers that are coming in, maybe it will help. And it certainly helps me to try and consolidate my thoughts on the why I'm here and so on. So what I've did is I've taken the predators, the catchers, guidelines, children decoys, concerned parents, concerned people, the DA, so law enforcement. That's sort of where it really starts, and then anything else to my mind is a spin-off from that. So we've really got to define a few things. Define the problem, why we're here. And put pretty simplistically, there's some adults out there that want to use children for their own sexual gratification. Now, there's a discussion which you can have in there, which is whether that is right or whether that is wrong. But I can guarantee you that anyone that you're bumping into around here is going to be of the belief that it's fucking definitely wrong. And children need to be protected from these sorts of people. But there's really nothing we can do about that. It's the sexual drive of deviant adults. But the part that that I think the movement is really trying to attack is that law enforcement is currently not effective at protecting children by doing what it should be doing, which is identifying child predators and securing convictions so they get locked up. That's ultimately that part two of that statement, is that LE is not effective at protecting children. It's not doing its job identifying child predators or getting them locked up. And this is my sort of interpretation of it. So what I'm looking for here is, is that a reasonable, let's try and keep it as simple as possible, definition of the problem. So if I was going to write something and say to someone, okay, that's where I'd start. There's a problem in that law enforcement isn't effectively identifying child predators and they're not locking them up. The reasons behind that, we can go into, I'd like to sort of elaborate a bit later on why that is, whether it's a belief thing or whether it's a funding thing. Because obviously it seems to be different jurisdictions, the motivation for police to go after these people. Anyway, there's a whole conversation that can be had around that, so it just keeps bouncing forwards. So okay, so what's happening here is that we're trying to solve that problem that law enforcement isn't effective. So what's sprung out of that is this movement, which is informal pred catching, So you've got concerned citizens that are filling the child protection gap left by ineffective law enforcement. And the way that they're filling that gap is that private citizens are identifying child predators and trying to secure convictions. So they're trying to do the law enforcement's job, or what I think we generally accept to be law enforcement's job. In an ideal world, law enforcement would be identifying child predators and that they'd be locking them away. Again, it goes more complicated than that, obviously, because the law only allows you to do certain things, so that needs to be changed. But in the first instance, it's identifying these predators seems to be the biggest problem. There doesn't seem to be enough resources for whatever reason out there, and it doesn't seem to be a focus of law enforcement. So that's what I'd tell someone that was new coming in here, as my understanding of it. Whoopsie dipsy, I'm bouncing away through this. Yeah, so I mean, the private citizens or private movement is trying to, I guess that's the question, is that really the baseline objective? Are we trying to secure convictions against these people? Is that the ultimate, I guess, gold standard of objective? And I'm putting down that it is, because that's what we believe that law enforcement should be doing. But I'll put a little caveat to the bottom of that, the bottom of the page. It says that convictions aren't always a realistic objective for pred catchers in many jurisdictions, for a number of reasons. But again, it's not going to get stuck on that. I'm just trying to get a top level agreement on what's going on. So we've got this situation that's sort of arisen, and this is kind of important, I think, because you've got concerned, the concerned citizens are doing that job, as I've just said, but there's also a spin-off sort of thing that's happened with, there's an exploitation of the movement, because YouTubers have spotted this as an entertainment cash exploitation, clout, whatever you want to call it, opportunity. So you've got, people that are genuinely, or catchers that are genuinely there for the kids, as the statement goes. But then you've got YouTubers there that they've spotted a way to make money out of this, which there's a couple of issues that spring off that. So are these YouTube exploiters bad? And I think that sort of way I came up to think about that was they're not necessarily bad. You've got type 1, which are, you'll see they've crossed out the word concerned citizens. But they are citizens that are filling the child protection gap left by ineffective law enforcement. They're doing the work of identifying child predators, and they're also moving through with the process and trying to secure convictions. So even though the main motivation is maybe it's cash, and it's always hard to establish exactly what those motivations are, but I think where certainly I'm at with that is that okay, you can make $1 million as long as you're going through and following through, and you're doing, how did I word that? They're a problem when they do not follow the rules. So as long as they're following the rules of pred catching, there's not a problem. When it does become a problem is when these really not concerned citizens, they're identifying child predators, but they're not securing convictions. They're not going through with the steps that are needed to secure a conviction. And there's various, again, there can be reasons why that doesn't happen. One is because of the jurisdiction maybe doesn't allow private pred catchers. But there's oftentimes, I think it's just a little more cynical than that. So they are a problem when they don't follow the rules of informal pred catching. Law enforcement refuse to prosecute, and they bring discredit to the movement. which then makes it harder for like real pred catchers, the noble people that are out there trying to do the right thing, trying to secure convictions, get these guys taken off the streets. Then the question is, okay, what are the rules? What do you mean by the rules, and how do we identify them to try and identify who these, I guess, going back, the type 2 ones, what are the rules that they're not following? And those rules, and I think trying to identify that, or trying to put a definition to it, if you like. It's a set of steps that decoys and catching teams follow in order to secure a conviction in that particular jurisdiction. So if again, it's that consistent, well, if there's a conviction is possible, if these catchers follow the catcher and decoy team follow these steps, then they've got a chance of law enforcement working with them to get this guy put away. So, I mean, for the purpose of this discussion, and for supporters like myself and maybe people that are coming in looking at this and trying to work out what the rules of the game are, it's kind of irrelevant, I guess. It's you got to leave that up to the professionals out there, the catchers and the decoys. They know what the rules are that need to be followed, and they know whether or not they're being followed in a particular area. So, but just for a couple of examples for people that might be sort of fairly new to this, is things such as who made the first contact, whether it was the pred with the child or the child with the pred, the particular age difference, whether there was an age drop that was made, the conversation, whether the conversation turned into a sexual conversation, how the interview itself was handled by the pred catcher, again, whether the evidence that is needed for a conviction or requested by law enforcement has actually been turned over in a timely manner by the catcher, and attending court to testify if it's required, whether it's a decoy or the catcher or someone in that chain, and the willingness to do that. Some of you are probably going to pick up a little bit of a theme here, but I'm going to leave this out of it because I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in particular, but what I would like to know is that a reasonable assessment of what is expected of a serious catcher? Because I think some of the division that's been happening sort of hangs on this point. So you've got failure of a catcher to consistently follow those steps could indicate either exploitation, so they're just here for the bucks, or incompetence. I mean consistently to do it. I don't mean, people miss it, things happen. That's quite obvious. And a lot of these people are putting in their own time and their own effort without any sort of reward whatsoever. But again, even if they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, it can still be detrimental to the reputation of the movement. If people can go out there with all the goodwill that they've got, but they can still be fucking it up for the professional catching teams. There's a discussion there that I think needs to be had as to whether or not good meaning people are actually doing more harm than good to the movement as such. Are they making it more difficult for the professional catchers by having, well-meaning cowboys out there? And again, I'm not talking about the people that can't get convictions because of the nature of the jurisdictions that they're working on. I'm just talking about people that, really don't know what they're doing, or are just doing it for money and getting followers on a YouTube channel. So that's where, I mean, that's where I want to start. What I'd like is, I'm sure there's a few people that I've had a bit of conversations with, but if people can just give me some feedback, and what I'll do is, if these seem like reasonable statements that I'm making, if I can just get a bit of a feedback, because I want to put them into a bit of a flow model. So ultimately, all I'll have is a couple of pages that I can put on the internet to anyone that wants to have a look at how this all comes together in a simple way, and maybe we can, I don't know, maybe it'll help. Maybe we can sort of identify where some people are having problems and where this division's sort of happening as well, and just some quite simplistic steps to get around that division. Because I haven't been here for a number of years now. We just seem to be stuck in a spot at pointing fingers at different catches being, getting stuck on the motivations and so on. And some of it's just a question of style. I think you either like them or you don't. Some is a question of legitimately, are they following through? And if they're not, I think that feedback needs to get back to them that they are potentially, well, they are damaging the reputation of the movement. And I know it's a catcher-driven thing, and we've got to be thankful for those people that are out there doing that. But even as supporters and observers, I think, I don't know, I'm fucking saying this as an Australian living in another country, but trying to get things happening over here, it's the same game, it's the same sort of set of problems. Yeah, I think, and there is if you look at it as a consumer versus a consumer expectation, as consuming this product, I think we do have a right to judge the behaviour of the catcher. If we see that their actions are bringing, the whole movement into disrepute, I think they need to get the feedback that, hang on, it's free speech, or it's a market, if you like. And if there's people coming in here that are seeing catchers doing shit in an unprofessional manner and going, well, fuck, I'm not going to throw my money in behind these lot of cowboys, it sort of it diminishes the whole movement. Yeah. Again, I mean, this might sound kind of arrogant, and I'm sure some people will get the nose out of joint about this, but tough shit. I'm just trying to go through a process of understanding why the way things work, why the things work the way they do, rather than pointing any fingers. But I'm sure that there'll be some drop out of that. Yes. So what else we got? Next steps. What do I want to get out of this? So anyone that leave a comment. If you go back through those, particularly those statements about what the objectives are, and I think that's the fundamental key to it, is to work out what is the objective of the movement. If you can get that simplified into a single line, then everything else that we do can be measured back against that objective. It's like, is doing X making this objective or helping us reach that objective, or is it hindering us from reaching that objective? It's just as simple as that. You just sort of make a statement and then go back and look at it and say, is this helpful versus where we want to be, or is this unhelpful for where we want to be? It's just like a test. So, I mean, there'll be some people out there that have done this kind of stuff before and maybe have thought through some things. I know that I've heard the conversation before that I've just sort of had with myself in my head there about different types of catches and what the objective is. Is it getting convictions, or is it getting exposure, or is it both? And if there's some pretty strong views on that out there, so that'll be an interesting one to have. So if anyone's got any critique on what it is that I've written, which would be fantastic, because it's just simplistic my thoughts at this stage, and I'd like to flesh it out with some input. And this obviously goes on. I think once I've started, this is how my head sort of works, and I'm doing this largely for myself, like I said. But I can see it's like the types of catches is the thing, and then okay, what sort of things are not acceptable, what sort of things are acceptable. And if the catchers don't like being judged, it's like tough shit. I'm going to fucking do it anyway. It's not an attack. It's just it's just an adult thing that you do as you look at your behaviour and you go, well, fuck, well, this isn't probably good. The audience doesn't think it's helpful. Maybe if we did it in a different way. So only suggested, things that other people can see that they'd like to maybe discuss. I'm going to do this hopefully I want to do this on a weekly basis, just try and put this into a bit of a model and update it with comments. If people have got comments, if they don't, I'm still going to keep going anyway. I'll just sort of work on the assumptions and statements that I've made and just keep ploughing along. It's pretty easy to just not watch. I'll put these videos in a special category on my channel so they can do some usual sarcastic, nasty, women-hating, isn't that it? Woman-hating things that I usually do. Hopefully get a few laughs out of those. But yeah, I was thinking if anyone wants to have a bit of a discussion around what I've thrown out here now, maybe we can have a little bit of a panel. So yeah, hit me up on IG or leave a comment down there in the comment section, and yeah, we'll just discuss it and just keep it focused on the topic on hand. So I'm really not interested for this particular thing on sides so much. I think it's interesting to get different views from the different sides, particularly because I think we can shine a spotlight on what it is particularly that one side doesn't like about the other side, and maybe there's a way that we can find around that. There's some obvious things that we're probably not going to resolve, but I'm thinking about it more from a catcher's perspective, because there's definitely expectations on behaviour. Which is kind of interesting, but kind of complicated as well. So it's it's a bit of a risk to throw a comment out there, and sort of need to reiterate that I'm putting my thinking out as it is at the moment, but I by no means think that it's going to stay in that spot. But you got to start somewhere, It's a risk. I think I lost my. Yeah, so if anyone's looking for a opportunity to have a chat, well, hit me up and we can do a panel. Like I said, anyone from any side is welcome, and if someone starts to get disruptive or just wants to take it off topic in a trolley sort of way, they can fuck off, and I'll just kick them. Yeah, alrighty. So that's where I'm at with this. I was kind of trying to do that with a few of those humorous things as well, so I need to think about that. Alrighty. Look forward to hearing if there's any feedback, and if not, that's fine. I'll keep posting. I don't expect this to be particularly popular, but there you go. I'm not all in it for the clout. Now I'm going to get out of this somehow. All right. Thanks for listening. Take care.